All right, guys, we're back here and we're picking up with Standard Oil Company in New Jersey versus the United States. So, what this is, and I was starting to get into, is we're again talking about things that happened during the Taft presidency. And what's good about this is sort of like the culmination. This is like one of the pinnacles of the progressive era because you know John D. Rockefeller was, we talked about robber barons and captains of industry, but in the end, all these guys that are super wealthy they're gonna be vilified because of the way they acquired their wealth. There's questions about the ethics of business and how they ran other people out and the way they took over companies. So this guy, John D. Rockefeller, he's disliked. Okay, and even though he's in retirement, the company is still his, and this is going back many years. The breakup of this company goes back many years. So we're going to flip over to this, and Ida Tarbell is a muckraker. Okay, this you got a picture over here. This is the book she wrote. Originally, it was a bunch of publications in different magazines, and eventually, then it was published. I believe as a book, and it was an expose on the Standard Oil Company. And people read it and they despised John D. Rockefeller because she basically told everyone how he did business. So that's going to finally come to a head, and you're going to see the Sherman Antitrust Act is going to be kind of the key element in breaking that up. So the Sherman Antitrust Act actually is put to use, and a lot of people do credit Ida Tarbell with sort of like starting that that whole case and getting it underway because of that expose she did. Down here on the bottom, I added a thing from the New York Times that I read. It's just a nice little overview of the whole process and what happened and how she did it and what happened to Rockefeller. Social and cultural development. So right here we got Du Bois and the NAACP are formed. We've talked about that, how important it was. Going, you talk about his different magazines and the Niagara movement, all the things he did. But what that shows, the NAACP and like temperance unions, is how during this progressive era, political parties were losing power, and these different organizations are starting to gain it. You're going to start to see people using lobbyists, so you're going to see them influencing people and really gaining power. Okay, so let's move on to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, a lot of stuff here. Okay, you have the 17th Amendment. You're going to have Clayton Antitrust, Federal Trade Commission, Espionage, and the Sedition Act, Schenck versus U.S., Federal Reserve Act, and then a bunch of different amendments. And on the bottom, we're probably not going to get to the stuff down here. We're going to stick with the stuff up here. Okay. So first things first, let's talk about the Federal Reserve Act. What is it? Why is it important? Over here, it's kind of a sketchy story. A bunch of really wealthy guys. Well, let me take it back a little bit more. There's a number of financial panics from the 1800s all the way into the 20th century. We learned about the one in the 1870s, 1890s. There's going to be one in 1907. And these panics are when basically people bug out. There's runs on bank. There's going to be a run on banks. They're going to shut down. People are going to lose their money. It hurts business. What happens is a bunch of really wealthy bankers and businessmen get together on Jekyll Island, which is like this secluded island off the coast of Georgia. It's essentially private. No one's there. And they have this meeting and they plan out the banking system to correct financial panics. Sounds like a good idea, right? Is it? I don't know. Okay, so let's look at what it does. So they come up with this plan in 1910 after Woodrow Wilson is elected. There you go. You're going to have the Federal Reserve Act passed, and let's see what it did. Okay. So the Federal Reserve Act creates a system, and there's going to be a board of governors in D.C., 7 of them. They're going to be appointed by the president, and then they're going to be approved by the Senate, right? They got to be approved. So then what they do is they're sort of like they oversee the monetary system, like it says down here. They control interest rates, they control the money in circulation. And the way they do that is through these different 12 reserve banks that are all over the country. And different banks in these different areas want to be a part of it. So there's different arms that stretch out, and they have their hands in the economy. And what they're able to do is sort of manipulate and stop the economy from really faltering or having serious issues. They're trying to grow the economy.